Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hit subscribe now and tap that bell. I'm Joni Young and I'm going to show you step by step how to paint this landscape today of a sunrise over the mountain range in the winter. If you'd like to learn how to paint this, then stay tuned. We'll be using a 12 by 12 primed canvas with one coat of acrylic white gesso. I let it dry before beginning, and here are some of the colors that we're going to be using today. We've got some neon paints by Holbein. They're luminous heavy-bodied acrylics. We've got a Pro Stroke by Power Acryl Filbert brush, a large one. I'm going to begin with light ultramarine blue. I just got my brush a little bit wet beforehand, definitely not dripping. You don't want to have it too wet. And I'm kind of pressing flat and tapping and then pushing around, creating patchy areas for where I want my clouds to be in the sky. So this is going to be, instead of a grayscale painting, it's going to be a blue and white scale painting. We'll be doing the composition like this first. And these are going to be our soft, beautiful shadows that we're going to have in this painting. Once we achieve the composition here, the mountain range and the clouds in the sky, I'll then dry it off and then we'll come in with our next color. So I'm going to make these clouds smaller and smaller, and I'm just using the tip of my brush, you can see here, to create those smaller, skinnier, lighter clouds, and then more width of my brush for the larger clouds on the very top. I'm going to come in now and start my mountain range. So on a steep slant and then a slight little scoop there where our sun is going to be rising. So the idea is to make it look patchy, and you want some areas to be a little bit thicker and wider with the blue, and then smaller little areas, just like how we did our clouds. We want to have a little bit of that canvas exposed and showing in between to give us all those different little bits of highlights and shadows. And this will make our painting multi-tonal once we apply the other colors over top. Okay, it's time for our Thalo green and ultramarine blue now. So I'm taking a little scoop of each on the tip of my brush, and I'm going to come in with the darker parts of my mountain. So the rocky parts that aren't covered in snow or just really in shadow. And this will just help to create more of a contrast and the depth that we want in this painting. So this is going to be a light outline, and then we're going to come in with a few little patches and little dots and dabs here and there, very easily to achieve the look that we want. It's super easy, and this is very doable for a beginner level of painter. No matter what level, skill level you're at, you can all join in today and paint along. Okay, I'm going to finish up with all my shadows and contrast here on this side. And then I'm going to wash my brush out, pick up more of my light ultramarine blue, and I'm going to start to build up a little bit more of the color over on the right side. I want to make it a little bit darker, so applying another layer of my blue over top will help me do that. This is going to be, see how richer that looks, and it looks a lot softer. I'm filling in some of those little areas that look a little bit too dry and still leaving some spaces in between and around for our other colors. I'm going to apply a little bit of that light ultramarine blue in between some of these shadow areas where we have our rocky shadow areas here on this other mountain, and just pull and slide a little bit. Got a little bit of that, just a tiny bit of that blue and phthalo green on my brush. Alright, so I'm going to fill the rest of this in with my light ultramarine blue. And it's okay if your phthalo and darker blue are wet underneath. It's actually kind of nice to pick up a little bit of it and let that blend in here and there. You'll create different tones and shades that way. That'll be very natural. And it's always exciting to see what they turn into once we apply that filter color over, which in this case is going to be the neon pink. Before we add the neon pink, we're going to use neon yellow, and we're going to use a neon yellow cool by Holbein. It's luminous. And of course you can use any yellow that you want, any neon yellow. You don't have to have the specific brand that I'm using today. It's just my personal preference. Of course, dry your painting off completely before beginning this step. And now we're going to come in. We can do this safely because we know all of that paint underneath is dry now, so we can apply this layer, this filter. Straight neon yellow, just still using my Filbert brush. It's a nice brush to use for blending, but you can use any brush that you want for this coverage. And I'm going to apply this sparingly because I want the main focus of this painting to be that heat of the pink, that neon hot pink color. So I'm going to apply a little bit of this neon yellow on the exposed white canvas. Note that if you overlap the blue with this, it's going to turn green, which could be okay. It might look like a turquoise, bit of a turquoise color, and it definitely would work in this painting because green is of course complementary to red, and we've got a shade of red with our hot pink. So it will work, but that's not what I'm going for in this painting, so I'm trying to stay away from the blue. So after adding a little bit of neon yellow where I want, I'm going to dry it off completely. Make sure all of that is dry, and now I'm going to come in with a clean brush, the same brush, and my beautiful neon pink. I'm going to start tapping along the very top of the canvas, and I'll go from there. So this is so much fun to do, you guys. I can't wait for you to try this and share your thoughts and your versions of this up on the Facebook group and on Patreon, of course. If you're a patron, then you're seeing this before anybody else. So I'm going over the blue. I'm going to leave the bottom right corner untouched. I want to leave that a little bit more on the cool side, so I'm going to keep that pink away from there, leaving it just natural. I'm going to go over the clouds and part of the yellow. So I do still want to have some of that neon yellow there. I'll go over just the top of the mountain, above the sun, the bright yellow area, and part of the yellow over on the far right. Now, I'm doing that because I'm going to create another tone by doing that, right? Pink and yellow will make peachy neon orange color, so it's really quite beautiful and a really nice addition to all the other colors in this painting. We don't want to have too much of it though. We want the main focus to be that pink and of course the purpley color that we're making by overlapping the pink with the blue. So if your paint is not coming out of your brush easily and blending out, you can take a tiny bit of water. In this case, I took a little bit of water because we know that acrylic paint dries fast as well, right? And my canvas is also warm, so because I took my hairdryer to it, so it is making it dry a little bit quicker. So just taking a little bit of water on your brush will help. Note that if you do use water, it's going to thin the richness and that pop of color. It dulls it just a little bit, so you may notice that. Then it's easy to come over later on if you want to bring that pop of color back here and there in your painting. Just go back later on and add full strength, another layer of the neon pink. So I just made some orange on my palette by mixing my pink and my yellow together. And I added a little bit, but I'm going to take a bit of it off actually because I'm not too crazy about that. Now I have another color in here you might notice. This is another neon yellow, but it's a warm. So the first neon yellow we used is a cool. And I just took this neon yellow warm and a little bit of white, as you can see, just to create some soft little sun rays there, and try to go over this area here and bring back that light golden color that we had. You could add just a little bit more of your neon yellow and white over top. There's a few different ways to achieve that color, but I'm going to soften this off and bring back the pink a little bit more. Oops, I just got to take that off right there. And you can see after adding that little bit of yellow there on the mountain, that little area that I just wiped off looks sort of like a turquoise color. I really like that. So I noticed that, and it happened by complete mistake, but I think it's really pretty. So definitely feel free to add a little bit of turquoise to this painting if you want, guys. It would look really, really beautiful. So now I'm going to come over with another coat of my neon pink. I really want to create a feeling of intensity and heat and saturation in this painting. I just love it. Now this reminds me of living back in the Rockies. I grew up in the Rockies, and we would go up to the ski hill early in the morning and ski down and have these amazing, really breathtaking views. So just coming in with a little bit more of my neon pink on the tip of my brush. I want to add it where I want it to be a little bit richer and deeper, so just a few areas. And you can see the heat that we're creating there, that vibrancy right below the sun on top of the mountain range. I'm going to come in here and add a little bit more pink, just keep going over wherever I want. And then after washing my brush out, come back with a very thin, soft coat of white, just to give this more of a creamy blended soft look and not so rough looking. And again, it's just a little bit of water in my brush, just enough to work out that paint. So it's not a thick amount of paint, it's going to be really thin and see-through. So I'll slide my brush diagonally just to keep with that angle of the mountain and soften a little bit more here and there, and then we'll move on to the next step. Right, I want to take a little bit of my light blue violet with a tiny bit of white that's left over in my brush, but we're using more blue violet than white, and I'm just going to very sparingly come inside some of these clouds. I'm not completely covering up all of the cloud because I want to have that shadow and that outline. You want your clouds to be multi-tonal. This is going to give them that dimension and light and shadow. So this is just a nice addition, and it really makes them pop out even more. And you've just got so many different colors going on in here. The purple, the pink, the blue, the orange, the yellow, and of course like an intense reddish orange color from the combination of neon yellow and the neon pink. I'm going to come in with my ultramarine blue, just straight ultramarine blue now, and build up the layer on the mountain over here. This mountain, of course, is going to be deeper and richer in color. So it's going to take a little bit of layering to achieve that. Again, super easy, and this is very, very doable, beginner friendly. No matter what stage of painting you're at, you guys can all follow along and do this one with me. After I add the ultramarine blue, I'm picking up my lighter shade of ultramarine blue and adding a little bit of that. Okay, so now I've got a little round brush. You're just going to need any small brush to create the dark rocky patches in the mountain, and I'm taking my phthalo green and a little bit of ultramarine blue that I've got left. I'm going to just come in and start adding where I want my very darkest little patches here for rocks and shadows. Just kind of wiggling, not thinking too much about it, just wiggling around, tapping, dots and dabs here and there, making it look really random. You don't want to create a pattern, right? It's got to look natural. So the best way to make something look natural is to not overthink it, not think too much about it. Or if you have a reference photo to go by, that really helps. And I chose phthalo green for my darkest because green, like I said earlier, is complementary to a red, and we have red tones in this from our pink. So you can see it just brings that intensity out more, brings that heat out more. The colors like each other and they play on each other, and if you use black, it's not going to be the same. You'll still get a nice contrast and shadow, but there's nothing like using a complementary color if you can. So it works really, really well in this. And you can use a little bit of black and blend it with your phthalo green if you want. And then just carefully here on the right or the left side, I'm going to pull in from the edge of the canvas. I'm going to stay away from where the sun and the sun rays are hitting because it's going to be nice and bright there, and I want to create that warmth and those sun rays and that light. So I'm going to stay away from that and just come in from the outer edges and work my way gradually towards the middle of the mountain. Now just taking a little bit of my light blue violet, I'm going to work on the top here, bringing out this mountain a little bit, making it a little bit taller. And you can see that green that happens when my light blue violet hits the phthalo green. It blends in with a little bit. That was accidental, but I love it. So what would Bob Ross say? Happy little accidents. And it's totally true. It definitely, no matter what skill level you're at and how long you've been painting for, just when you think you know what you're doing, you have these little accidents and these surprises, and it's so fun. And that's why I look forward to painting every day. I love that there's always something new I can learn and some surprise waiting for me. Here I've got more of my, of course I washed my brush off completely, and I've got more of my neon yellow warm. So I'm going to layer over part of the yellow, and then I come in here and I'm going to apply straight white. I'm going to just add a little hint of some sun rays in here. We're not going to see too many sun rays though. We just want to create a glow right there. And the next color I'm using now is neon red. If you don't have neon red, you can use neon pink. It'll pretty much do the same thing. I just wanted this to feel a little bit more intense, and it really, really does right next to and partially over that phthalo green ultramarine blue mixture. So just scumbling down a little bit more the rest of the paint out of my brush, right underneath the sun here. Then I'm going to come in and start working on underneath part of these clouds, making them look a little bit more intense in color. I'm going to outline the top of that mountain with just a little bit of my neon red, or neon pink will work as well. Now taking a little bit of white with my neon pink, I'm going to make it look like the light is hitting part of the mountain here. So just creating some soft little patches, just wiggling in. See how pretty that looks? So this again is just titanium white with some neon pink. And you don't need to do a lot, just a little bit here. Alright, I'm going to work a little bit more on the sun. I'm going to pull and flick a little bit of that neon pink and white out, wash my brush. Then I'm going to take some more of my neon yellow full strength and some white inside the sun first, and then come around with some neon yellow. So right here, just outlining, really making that sun bright, nice and bright in the center. Getting back to some of my neon pink. And I'm just going to add a few little quick pulls and flicks with my brush to create some soft little sun rays, and then I'm going to blend softly out there and then come in with some more of my light ultramarine blue. So right here, just pulling, sliding side to side, gently and very carefully over all the other areas where we have those dark rocks and all the highlights, of course. Alright, so now I'm going to come in and add a little bit more of my phthalo green ultramarine blue mixture. I want to make some of these areas a little bit thicker and bigger. And then a very careful suggestion of an outline right there and softening it off with my finger, kind of just blending it up, keep it away from the sun. Now with a clean brush, I'm going to come in with more of my neon pink. Right underneath, so a little scoop. And then pulling and flicking for those sun rays and that little glow that we want around the sun. Coming around now with a clean brush and some titanium white. And I'm going to take the rest of that little bit of white on my brush and scumble it out here down on the bottom right side. And what would look really pretty is just to tint your white with a tiny bit of that neon yellow, and you can add a little bit of that down on the bottom right as well. Now for the last little bit of detail to this painting, I'm coming in with only light ultramarine blue. I've got a thick amount on my brush, and I'm applying it over those areas in between all the dark shadows and rocks. And this really does make a big difference in this painting. It's just that it gives it that fresh, cool look to these mountains, and it really feels like morning. I love all these colors together, and I really enjoyed working on this one as something different. I thought I was actually finished with my winter themed tutorials, but I just decided I wanted to paint this spur of the moment yesterday, so I hope you guys enjoy this one as much as I have and that you want to paint along. I'm also going to add a little bit inside of the clouds at the very top. I want to remind you guys to be sure to check out the description below this video for some links and the full list of colors and brushes, canvas that we're using today. Be sure to subscribe to my channel, tap that bell so you get notified every time I post a new video. As you know, I post quite often. And I want to wish you guys happy painting. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon in another video. Bye, everybody.